Let's recap last night's Spurs Nuggets game and ask maybe there should be a lineup change to get things going.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the San Antonio Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope everybody's having a great start to their work week. We'll get you through it right here on Locked On Spurs. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. So what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to be looking at last night's Spurs Nuggets game. Shocker, everybody, they lost. Well, I'll give you three things that stood out for me during that game last night out in the Mile High City. Then we're going to have Tom Petrini, my colleague at Ken's 5. We're going to discuss another thing perhaps the Spurs could do. Maybe a change in the lineup or just the rotation. We'll talk about that. And Pop doubled down on you guys, fans. Yep, he said he has no regrets for what he did when he took that mic last week and said nobody should be booing Kawhi Leonard. So we'll talk about that and more right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, you guys are the everydayers. Thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every single day. So Spurs Nuggets, yeah. Another loss. Another loss for your silver and black. Your Spurs lost 132-120 to the defending champs. They fall to 3-14. Is that a 12-game losing streak? Keeps on getting better, yeah. So what happened last night for Denver and the Spurs? Well, let's talk about that right now. Three things that stood out for me. Hey, one of the first thing that stood out for me is Wembanyama. Another solid game from him. He had 22 points to lead the Spurs. Not just that, he seems like he's setting new individual records left and right almost daily now, and he's only going to get better. So we mentioned the points. He also had 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 6 steals, 4 blocks. Did have 3 turnovers, though. Shot 7 for 17 from the field, 2 for 5, and had a couple of nice dunks. He did all that in 25 minutes. So that stood out for me. Wemby, again, having another night. Dare I say he's starting to get a little bit more consistent night in and night out. Remember that whole, 3 quarters off, 1 quarter, fourth quarter. Excuse me, he comes on. Lately, that's been kind of a little different. Maybe that's a kind of a bright spot right now during this losing streak when Bama came to life. So that stood out for me. Wemby showed up and against the Joker. So, Joker just destroyed this for 39 points, season high for him. But nevertheless, he held his own somewhat versus Denver. So kudos on him. I'm trying to start off with something positive. All right, guys, I'm trying to start off with something positive. So yay, Victor had himself a nice game. Kind of like a 1B, Devin Vassell, comes back from injury. He's been playing really well. And he had another phenomenal night against Denver. You're looking at what he did. He finished with 19 points in 26 minutes, 4 for 7 from the 3 line. He did have 3 assists and a rebound. He did that in 26 minutes. So kind of a 1B to Victor is the play of Devin Vassell. Pop said ahead of the game that they're going to try to limit Vassell's minutes moving forward. They're being very cautious with him and the injury. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So again, starting off positive. All right, now for the negative. This point number 2, takeaway number 2. They came out strong. The Spurs team, they came out, looked like they were raring to go. Like they were ready to give Denver a battle. And they proved that after the first quarter, 39-35. Spurs were just down 4. But then the wheels came off again. Again, takeaway number 2, they're not playing 48 minutes of basketball. Denver 33-25 in the second, 35-24 in the third quarter. The Spurs did make somewhat of a comeback in the fourth, 36-25, outscoring the Nuggets. It just wasn't enough. You saw their offense kind of go stagnant. And once again, that proved itself in the Mile High City. They're just not playing a complete game. That's been the pattern of late. Pop has talked about it in games in the past, saying they got to learn how to play 48 minutes. Again, they did not play 48 minutes versus Denver. Is that just a sign of a chemistry, a sign of maybe rotations and lineups? We'll talk about that in a while. Don't know, but right now that seems to be an issue with this team. Cannot play a complete game. Look, I get it. Runs happen. Spurs making a run, Denver made a run. Spurs going to make a run and against Atlanta the next game. Hawks going to run against the Spurs. It happens, but it's just for them staying competitive for 48 minutes. You didn't see that at all for a good portion of the game, and that portion of the game is what led to the Spurs getting just knocked out. The Denver Nuggets were up by 28 points. That was the largest deficit the Spurs had. It was just total destruction. They played just a quarter, and quarter and a half. How's that? We'll give them that fourth, but that was it. So, by that time, Denver already threw in the flag. Spurs threw in the flag. It was just garbage time. And point number 3, again, going back to that offensive flow, they just couldn't, get their shot falling. Now for the game, they did shoot 45%, but Denver 56% from the field. 3-point percentage, Denver shot 43%, Spurs 38%. So again, they're not connecting on their shot. Offense, again, you saw it just grind to a halt during long stretches of periods versus Denver. Look, Denver is just an experienced team. They're the defending champs. That's a team that's already been with chemistry and cohesion, and going against a team that is struggling, going against a team that's searching for its identity, is going through a losing streak. And that just happens. That experience shined against the Spurs. So another game, another loss. Spurs will next face the Atlanta Hawks in San Antonio. DeJounte Murray's return this upcoming week out in San Antonio. I think it's on a Thursday. Keldon Johnson with 10 points and a rebound in 31 minutes. Zach Collins with 9 points, 1 for 4 from the 3 line, 4 for 9 from the field. Off the bench, again, Mitchell Vassell with 19 points. Julian Champagny 13 points. And we have Trey Jones with 10 points. Your Sohan point guard watch, he finished with 4 points. He was a minus 14 for the team. He had 3 turnovers and 3 assists. So that assist-turnover ratio, forget about it. 0 for 1 from the 3 line, 2 for 6. Spurs play the Hawks next. Yay. Up next, Tom Petrini is going to join us. We're going to be discussing perhaps trying to tinker with the lineup / rotations. Maybe that will jumpstart the Spurs. And then popped off again. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. He doubled down on popping off on the Spurs regarding booing, and you remember all that stuff. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest, most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Look, PrizePicks is the most fun that you'll have, and you could possibly win up to 25 times your money this basketball season. You just got to select 2 more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place their entry. Look, with basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League. A league created specifically for combo projections includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, Keldon Johnson and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions. Have a lot of fun using PrizePicks right now. Look, PrizePicks offers reboot policy so your entries stay in play even if one of your players get injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return to the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance policy. Look, I go there. You should get it. I downloaded it. You should download it. Go visit PrizePicks.com right now. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Hey, this is Chris Sabat, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And as promised, we're now joined by Tom Petrini. He's my colleague at Ken's 5 San Antonio. Make sure to follow him on X at @RealTomPetrini. Tom, welcome back to Locked On Spurs.
Jeff, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
I heard that the Spurs are looking to you to cure their ills as far as the new starting point guard. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't create a lot of advantage off the dribble. That's sort of a weaker part of my game. I'm a very unselfish player, but it'll more be the kind of thing where I come into the locker room and just change everything just on vibes. It's a purely vibes based signing, which I can't talk about in detail. Per team policy, details of the contract are not announced.
Exactly. You know what, Tom? Maybe that might be what it takes for the Spurs to fix what's going on with them. Something's got to give.
Vibe shift. Yeah,
it's a vibe shift. We're going to tackle that right now. we're going to ask the big question. And the game here is that we can't pick Trey Jones because that's the obvious one. But what lineup change would Tom do, what I do, as far as to jumpstart this Spurs team and just, pick up some W's instead of L's, Tom? You're the guest. You go first. What you got?
So I'm just going to say right off the bat that I don't anticipate changes to the starting lineup necessarily at any point soon. I think, Pop's just going to keep pounding the rock. I think there are some lineups that I'd like to see more of. But the easiest answer for me and the cop-out answer is I want to see Devin Vassell play more, especially as a starter. He's been injured, and then in his return from injury, he's been coming off the bench. So we still haven't seen enough, I think, of the Spurs' best players out on the court together. Love seeing, Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Victor Wembanyama together out there. Right. Really effective three-man unit. But really, I want to see Devin Vassell and Victor Wembanyama in pick and rolls. I want to see them, playing defense together, switching, doing basketball stuff. I want to see the team's two best players on the court together. And then in the first month of the season or so, we haven't seen nearly enough of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, Pop ahead of the game versus Denver last night said that no, Devin is not going to be reinserted into the starting lineup. Didn't give a timetable. The reason, preserving his minutes. So we'll see how that shakes out. But
I get being cautious with him. I understand. But it is what it is. I'm hoping that we get 60 whatever games remain. Sure. A lot of them we have good quality Devin Vassell minutes. The actual lineup thing that is a shift in terms of strategy that I've been sort of seeing a little bit more of and would like to continue seeing more of it is it's a genius concept, very outside the box, but you play the 7'3" guy at center,
Yeah. Genius.
And I think it presents fundamentally different ways for Wemby to play defense, because when he's playing the 4, it's almost as like a Kawhi Leonard, off-ball rover, monkey wrench, essentially, is what I like to think of it as. You're flying around on the perimeter trying to screw stuff up, and you're helping on drives to the rim, and you can do a lot of damage that way. You can be really disruptive, but a player like that is best and does their best when the defense around them is solid.
Yeah.
When everybody else is doing their job consistently, then those gambles really pay off more. The Spurs defense that we're seeing now, I think it's
terrible. Yeah.
It's not it's not the kind of it doesn't breed good defense, and it you'll see Wemby look out of position sometimes, and you'll wonder, how do they have this guy who is so good defensively,
right,
and the team defense is still bad?
Yeah.
And when you play Wemby at the 5, on both ends, you can call screen and rolls for whatever position, but on defense, it forces him to be involved in a lot more screening actions, right? Anytime the opposing team center is setting a screen, he kind of blows that up and forces defenses to rethink, okay, what do we want to do here? Because, I don't see opposing teams afraid to attack Zach Collins in the pick and roll or otherwise. They're happy to go right at him. And Wemby, we've seen it on so many plays already this year where a perimeter player or somebody else will get a good play down into the paint. They'll get a paint touch. They'll get past the defender, right? And it looks like they could go up for a layup. But they're like, that's a bad idea with this guy behind me. Yeah. With this guy in the general vicinity, I know that's not safe. And so when you play him at the 5 and you make him a central figure in those pick and rolls, it really forces the other team to make some tough decisions about what they want to do. And so that's in lineups that allow it. I think that's something that I really want to see more of.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You get Devin Vassell back, throw him back in the lineup. As of this moment, we don't know when he'll return, but you would think that eventually he'll return because Malachi Branham hasn't had the kind of season that many thought he would have. I spoke to him at practice a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that, yeah, he ain't starting the way that he thought he'd be, but maybe a shift back to the bench would help him, coming off that bench for second unit. And Wemby at 5, sure, why not? And speaking of that, why not try it kind of attitude, I'm right there with you. Not necessarily a lineup change, but maybe just a rotation change. Why not? Look, you're on this massive losing streak. You're picking up a lot of L's and hardly any W's. You got nothing to lose. Why don't we just try Dominic Barlow out there? Throw him at the 4. Throw him out. Just do something athletic. The guy's tearing up the G League. So you would hope some of that would translate into the NBA. And again, what do you got to lose? You got nothing to lose, Spurs, at this point of the season. So try out there. Maybe he might be a spark plug. He could be an energy guy. Blake Wesley talked to me about playing with Barlow in the Austin Spurs. And he said it himself, like, yeah, he got those minutes. He's going to put up those kind of numbers. It's going to be the same way for Barlow. I think Barlow, if he gets in there, I think he could be a nice complementary player to Wemby, especially using your idea of switching Wemby to the 5 and having a bouncy, athletic forward like Barlow next to him. Again, you got nothing to lose. If all of a sudden now we're in an experimental season, experimenting with Sohan at the point guard, experimenting with Wemby, just free roaming and doing what he wants to do, why not experiment with Barlow? I mean, I think some fans out there are trying to get him out there. Yeah, go ahead.
In the most recent game against the Clippers, it was because Charles Bassey has had the majority of the minutes playing center off the bench. But we saw in that game an exceptionally rough. It was only a minute, I think, that Bassey was on the floor, but like he had 3 turnovers and was a -7, and it was just like really sloppy. And he brings great energy. I mean, he's a leaper. He's he's a dog, dude. He goes and gets the boards, block shots. But the biggest struggle for this team is they need to be on the same page. Everybody needs to be on the same page. And if Barlow can prove that he can do a better job of that, I mean, he's scoring 35 a game in the G League. Spurs don't want him to score 35 a game for the big team, but like you said, he brings a lot of skill, and that energy, that athleticism. And that would, I don't know how much overlap there would be with Wemby, although I see, they could work as a pairing no matter who plays the 5, right?
Right.
But in that Clippers game, we saw Don Barlow guarding Kawhi Leonard for stretches.
He energized the team in those few minutes he was out there. I noticed it. He was a good little spark.
Yeah. And I think also in this stretch where the Spurs had been a little bit more competitive, I saw some good minutes from Sandro Mamukelashvili.
Exactly.
Certainly not a cure-all, but you've got interesting pieces to experiment. There's plenty of experimenting going on beyond just Jeremy Sohan playing point guard. I think that there's a lot of evaluation up and down the roster, and we know that Pop is sort of reluctant to mess with his rotation. That's why, if a key player like Devin Vassell is out of the starting lineup, it's not necessarily okay. What's the next best player that I could put in? The answer there would be Trey Jones, right? Yeah. But you don't want to mess with the rotation. You don't want to mess with the roles that everybody else has in that starting lineup. Not that it's anything to be like, oh, we need to preserve this right now. But what they're trying to preserve is the process. It's that corny pounding the rock stuff. Just keep going until it works.
Yeah, exactly. And look, again, if the theme for the season went from wins and media dates and now experimental, why not experiment with Wemby at the 5? Why not experiment with giving Barlow more minutes or putting Vassell back in the starting 5? I think it'll happen eventually, maybe just not right now because of the injury for Vassell.
I think this is some of the frustration that fans are having, right? Is there's experimentation going on, but experiment with stuff that is going to be like pretty cool, right?
Yeah,
like or stuff that
Yeah.
theoretically should work. Like, something that fans have been talking to me that I've been seeing is like we need more Wemby in pick and roll on offense, especially weak side pick and roll. Clear it out, have him and your best ball handler run a play, and just three guys spacing on the other side of the court, and let the defenses make some really hard decisions. Force the defenses to make some really hard decisions. Give him the ball in places where he can get it and create an advantage or has an advantage.
Yeah.
Because that's the part of his game that's still developing. So I understand Pop wanting to, get him, evaluate him, watch him, see where he's comfortable. But I think that we've reached the point in the season where he can be like, okay, you know what? I think you might be really comfortable here doing this. Why don't we try that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. At this point, I feel like it's just put a dartboard on the wall and throw a dart, and that's the change. Fine, go with it, because the Spurs need help on pretty much a lot of issues on the defensive end and the offensive end and so much more. But we'll see what the Spurs do as the season continues. When we get back, Pop doubles down. Yeah. He said no, he has no regrets doing what he did at the Frost Center, telling fans to chill out, stop booing Kawhi Leonard. We're going to react to that coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hey everybody, this is Nathan Ray Clark from Criminal Minds and Modern Family, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs, hosted by Victor Wembanyama's new best friend, Jeff Garcia.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL stays hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. You heard that right. $150 if your team wins. Simple as that. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get on the action than right now. Go to the App Store. Whatever you go to, go get it right now. That app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options that includes spreads, player props, over and unders, and so much more. I got the FanDuel app. You should get it too. NBA season is well underway. What better way to have fun with the NBA season? Your Spurs are underway than using the FanDuel app right now. Again, go get it. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start going in and having some fun right now with the NFL season and the NBA season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Also want to talk to you about Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. You want to go to 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That is out there in the 1604-281 area if you're in San Antonio. They have a wide range of dairy alternatives. They have signature drinks like the Mudslinger itself, the signature drink, as well as the Red Line Infused Lightning Bolt series, the OG OJ, the Sub-Zero in honor of Frank Harris, as well as the Alien, which is, well, you know it, a hat tip to Victor Wembanyama. It's over there at Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. Open every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Friendly staff, great menu. As mentioned, those dairy alternatives. And if you need a little bite to eat, they even have mini donuts. Every day they're having something new. Every week it's something new over at Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. And they're very interactive with fans on social media. Follow them on X, Threads, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The list goes on and on. You can start following them right now at Mudslinger SATX. You want to go to Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee, a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and proud community member right here in San Antonio. Mudslingers, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Over 300 5-star reviews, cannot be wrong. Go there right now. Open every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Again, that address, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. You're in San Antonio. Go there right now. San Antonio, life is too short for bland coffee.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with my colleague at Ken's Five's very own Tom Petrini. Make sure to follow him on X at Real Tom Petrini. petition him to see if he's really going to be the next starting point guard for the Spurs. Ask him, tweet at him, let him know how you want the offense to run.
11th man. I'm getting no playing time. They might send me up to Austin, get some reps in, but I'm not expecting a rotation slot.
Exactly. And we're talking about all things silver and black. And thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. So Tom, Pop doubled down. You and I were at that game at the Frost where Pop just shook the arena with his voice, with his over the intercom voice, picks up the mic and says, everybody chill out. Don't be booing Kawhi. Well, he didn't say Kawhi Leonard's name. He just said no more booing. We're better than that. And then he walks away telling everybody to go like this. He's like, wait a minute, calm down like that. So he didn't stop there though, Tom. He was asked again the next game if he has any regrets. He said, no, he does not. Where do you stand on what Pop is telling the fans right now and double downing on that, saying, hey, guys, don't be booing, at least at one they said it was Kawhi Leonard. To me, Tom, it just feels like he just made it worse because now it's really going to come.
So a couple things here, like as shocking as it was,
very shocking.
I can understand why he said it. I understand where he was coming from when he said that. That's a person who cares about Kawhi Leonard, the human being. That's a guy who is at the point in his life and has been for a long time where he is not afraid to say what he thinks. And I think where he might have stepped over a line himself, and I think he kind of realized that pretty soon, was saying that it wasn't classy for fans to boo, because booing, I mean, yeah, you could argue it's immature and petty and rude and all of that stuff, right? But it's also a totally valid and respectable way to express yourself at a sporting event, that. It wasn't like fans were throwing stuff. It wasn't like, hey, I just heard a word that nobody can say. We need to stop it. It was just he felt bad for a guy who he cares about getting booed by the fans who used to cheer him on. But I think after the game, when he was asked about it and he claimed it was about poking the bear, it's well, that's not what you said when you grabbed the microphone and we're like, hey, guys, we're better than this. I'm embarrassed. That's what he was saying. And so I actually kind of appreciate the follow-up a little more, because that's more standing on it, which, if you're going to grab the microphone and address 18,000 people in an impromptu scolding, I think that's something that you got to kind of stand by. I understand him thinking it's at the end of the day, if you're a fan and you're like, man, I want to go to the Frostbank Center and boo Kawhi Leonard in 2023, where your next chance will be in 2024. We're talking about spending money for the sole purpose of going there and booing because another grown man decided he wanted to work somewhere else 5 years ago. I understand the people who think it's tired. I also understand the people who are booing the hell out of him. I get it. Yeah. That's the thing is I feel like everybody's a little bit right here and a little bit wrong. And the thing where I think Pop kind of comes off base a little bit is talking about it didn't used to be like that. It absolutely did.
Always was like this. Yeah.
Since he put on another jersey, these fans have been giving it to him, and I can understand that wearing thin on a guy like Popovich, who cares a lot about not just people, but doing things the right way, being respectable, all of that stuff. And
I get that. For me though, I do disagree with Pop. I don't think he should be telling the paying customer, how to react in that situation. You and I were at the game. From our vantage point on press row, nobody was hurling insults. Nobody was saying your mama this or that and quiet F-bomb this, and there was nothing like that. Not even the baseline bums that sit behind us, Tom. And nor did any fan, at least to my knowledge, report that they got an NBA code of conduct violation card on the baseline or near
right.
there. None of that happened. And for me, it's just a snowball effect. Like, what does it end? Does it end, with the next Spur that may be where fans feel betrayed by them? Would it be DeJounte Murray in a couple of weeks? He's kind of had a situation.
Also, like it totally backfired.
Yeah,
right. Like, and you would think he would have realized that, like, telling a bunch of people who have been booing the whole night to stop booing. Like, I don't care who you are and who you're addressing.
Yeah,
that's bold. Like
that is
like
bold,
it's like bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out.
And also too, like, when does it stop? Okay, do the Spurs themselves stop making skits where they're poking fun at the opposition?
Yeah, there was a Spurs game ops thing.
Yeah,
it was like the organization's game ops. And it was like a Thanksgiving thing. It was like a blind taste test.
Kawhi Leonard.
And the guy who they gave all the gross stuff to was in a Kawhi jersey.
Kawhi Leonard. So when does this stop? Is that classless? Snowball effect. Like, now what's going to happen? When does it end? Pops, lit the match and they see the fuse and the sparks going down. Does another NBA coach team does that to his own paying customers? Yeah, to me, ultimately, I looked at everything. He doubled down. He said what he said, all this stuff, fan reaction. I lean more towards, that was not a good move, Pop. You should have just left it alone. Address it post game. If you really felt strongly about that, you can talk strongly about your politics and where you stand on social issues. You could have done that at the appropriate time, post or pregame, as you mentioned, Tom. But to do it in game, in a game where Spurs fans love to circle on their calendar because they're never going to forget what happened to Kawhi Leonard. You don't do that. And I don't. He said that he doesn't regret it. I don't know if it'll happen though at the next home game. If he says anything kind of like, our fans are great or something that, something to that effect. Because right now the fans, for the most part, are kind of sour on him right now, Tom. And it's also the optics. Here's Pop defending a player on the opposite side of the court. Right. Sure. What if it was? I want to see if they boo. If the Spurs fans boo DeJounte. If they, maybe not to that level, but if they do, he's going to take the mic again and tell fans to chill out. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure maybe the Spurs organization told him, like, yeah, maybe not. But I
think he's learned his lesson about the grabbing the mic bit. I mean, here he is, and he's the guy who was hurt the most. I mean, if you had to pick one person who was hurt the most by Kawhi Leonard leaving San Antonio, it's Gregg Popovich, right? On a personal and professional level, And he's clearly moved on, but like, it was. Imagine being at that stadium, 77 years old, fresh off a Hall of Fame induction, standing under 5 banners that you helped hang up, and you've been listening to these people boo this kid who you're very fond of for years, and you reach your breaking point. You're like, guys, come on, can we please?
Yeah.
And then all those people boo you? Like, that has to be like a really like just put yourself in his shoes in that moment and think about the gravity of that. That's got to be a really a big wake up call, I guess. Or I mean, it's got to be very humbling.
This moment reminded me of Harvey Dent. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Even till today, Tom, on social media, I'm still getting hit up with comments about Pop was wrong. Pop should have never done it. Till today, even though it happened last week, today, fans are still very upset about that.
Another thing that I think is worth pointing out, and that Jeremy Sohan pointed out, he was like, you never know what Kawhi or anybody else is going through or thinking about. And don't forget that this is the league's new like back-to-back thing where the Clippers were in town a few nights before too. so they're probably staying in town. Maybe Kawhi got together with Pop. Maybe Pop saw the Kawhi's kids, Kawhi's family. I understand and agree with the fans who are saying Pop could have handled that differently, and I also understand and agree a little bit with the Pop saying, "Come on, guys, it's been enough time."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Booing though, I gotta say, boo if you want to, man.
Yeah, boo. Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah. Have at it, Spurs fans.
Harmless.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you do keep that classy, you don't go.
Yeah, keep it PG. Maybe keep it PG-13, but
yeah. So, yeah. Hopefully, that situation doesn't happen again, and hopefully it doesn't, rear its ugly head, because that wasn't.
I want to
everybody.
I want it the other way. I want Frank Vogel grabbing the mic in playoffs. I want to see some weird stuff happen.
We're done talking. We want to hear from you. Where do you stand on perhaps making a lineup change, or maybe just a rotation change? Do you think that would help the Spurs cure their ails of late? And no, you can't use Trey Jones. That one's the obvious one. It's just too obvious. So what would you do to tinker with that rotation / lineup? Also, Pop double down. Are you going to double down on your thoughts on Pop? I know all of you out there, majority of Spurs fans are not too happy with Pop right now. We want to hear from you. You let Tom know what you think about his thoughts on those couple topics on X at Real Tom Petrini. Also, let him know good luck, as the new starting point guard for the Spurs coming up soon. We wish you luck, Tom. Hopefully you are the cure for what ails the Spurs. Yeah, again, make sure to follow him on X at Real Tom Petrini. Hey, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. Google Play, the Ken Spy Plus app, iTunes, Spotify, the list goes on and on. No excuse for you to not check out Locked On Spurs or the rest of the Locked On NBA network. Tomorrow, we'll be back covering more Spurs, more Wembayama talk, whatever. Hopefully some wins. Hopefully we can start talking about some wins. That'll be awesome to do. We'll hopefully cross our fingers for that. But for Tom Petrini, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.